We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 2 o'clock, and we got a great show for you, as they say. My name is Kim Brigham, and on behalf of the Bonner Milltown History Center, welcome to everybody. Welcome to everybody, but maybe especially to the homeowners of Bonner and the businesses of Bonner. We hope that this is a start of a good connection with the History Center for everybody, or the continuation in some cases. Today's a celebration of sorts, first and foremost, for what has developed on this iconic mill site, since 1886, but especially for the last decade plus. This begins, for the History Center, this begins our 15th year, and this will be our 35th Winter Roundtable program dating back to 2009. And all of those have been filmed and produced by MCAT, Missoula Community Access TV, and all 34 previous ones are available on our website, the Bonner Milltown History Center website. We sit, or in some cases stand, I guess, on the banks of the magical, mystical Blackfoot River, tucked between the Rattlesnake Mountains on one side and the Garnets on the other. Our speakers today take us back more than 135 years in the history of Bonner and its mill. But we should also acknowledge that we're gathered in the ancestral homelands of the Salish and Kalispel or Pend Oreille people who've lived here from time immemorial. We offer our respect for their history and culture and for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Some quick notes. Most important, men's bathroom is over there. Women's bathroom is over there. The men's is a two-holer. I don't know about the women's. So you will have to kind of weave your way to either one of them when the time comes. Our thanks again to MCAT for providing this important gift to preserve our timber heritage history. They are here to, I'm trying to find my notes here. They're here thanks to a media assistance grant that they donate to us to film these programs. And this program, while we hoped it would be live streamed on Facebook today, so far we're having technical difficulties, so that may not be available. But it will be aired on MCAT channel 189 about a month from now, and downloaded on MCAT's video on demand, and subsequently will be on our history website as well. Some thank yous. Thanks to the Kettle House. This is our fourth program here over the last 4 or 5 years, and the support we've received and the interest that they've shown in the history of this general place have been phenomenal. We hope you can all return this support today and in the future. It's been a wonderful addition to this town, this tap room and brewery, and today and every day they offer beer, hard seltzers, house-made root beer or water, and they also have bar snacks such as Chex Mix, pretzels, bag chips, popcorn, and trail mix trail stop from and toilet paper. Do they still have toilet paper? Yeah. Thanks also to Friends of Two Rivers who sponsor the Bonner Milltown History Center and Museum, to our faithful sound technician, Walter Peckham, and finally to Steve Nelson, Mike Boehme, Mike Heisey for providing a home for the History Center, We're in the Bonner Post Office building and open to the public on Wednesdays from 10 till noon. On Tuesdays, we have our coffee group from 9 till noon for lively conversation and cookies. And on Fridays, we've started an Old Roads group, and that meets at 10 o'clock on Fridays. Please stop by and join in on any of those days, and if none of those days work, give us a call and we'll open it up for you. We will have, at the end of Steve's presentation, a traveling mic for questions, comments, stories. And that does it for me. On with the show. I'm going to turn it over to our fearless and tireless leader, Judy Mattson.
Oh, it is so exciting to see all of you here. I wish I had time to come and sit down and visit with all of you. I've seen so many old friends. I may be tireless, not really, but I am not fearless when I get up in front of a crowd like this. So here we go. I'm going to introduce the program. I'm going to introduce Steve for what is going to be probably one of the most engaging programs we've ever had, and that's saying a lot. So for many of us, probably everybody here, the trip from Missoula to Bonner is a routine trip. We hop into our cars, take I-90 or Highway 200, and we're out in Bonner in about 10 minutes. This routine trip was once an arduous journey by buggy, which necessitated a grand hotel, the Hotel Margaret, being built to house visiting dignitaries overnight before they returned to Missoula. The Margaret sat in the now vacant lot that looks like a park that's bordered by White House Lane, the White House, the mill, and the highway. We wish it was still the building. From 1911 to 1932, the trip was made by streetcar. Bob Johnson recalled jumping on the streetcar in East Missoula as a teenager and riding to Bonner, where he hopped off and ran to Lois Fuller's house to pick her up for a date. Together, the two of them hurried to the road to flag down the streetcar, which had just circled the roundhouse, which is where the post office and streetcar, and not the streetcar, the History Center are today. And they would hop back on the streetcar for the return trip to Missoula. After a movie or a ball game in Missoula, the couple would complete the journey in reverse. It was an effective courtship by streetcar. Bob and Lois were married for more than 71 years. Those transportation modes gave travelers ample time to see the icons of Bonner, icons that we speed past today on our way to our businesses or homes. We invite you now back to the 1920s and 30s to view those icons of Bonner. Coming around the bend, you first see the churches. First, Our Savior's Lutheran Church. After meeting in homes, the congregation built their first church on this site in 1910, where services were conducted in Norwegian. Next, St. Anne Catholic Church. The first of 3 church buildings on the site in Bonner was established in 1905 as a mission of St. Francis Parish and later transferred to the parish in Frenchtown. Originally, masses were given in Latin and sermons in French, and they were officiated by Father Legris, who made the long journey from Frenchtown once a month. Still standing near the church on school property is a part of the original 1905 A.J. Gibson designed church, now repurposed as a storage building. Next, we see Bonner School, one of the first community buildings established in 1889 to educate the children of the mill managers and workers. And remember, the mill itself was built in 1886. The first school was located in a building called the Bonner House, along with the Masonic Lodge and a meat market at the north end of Bonner in 1889, approximately across the street from here. In 1907, the school was relocated to its present site in a new 2-story schoolhouse, providing more space and a shorter walk to school for children from Milltown. In the winter of 1957, Former students, some of whom are here today, recall carrying books and equipment into the new school, the school we know today, which has enjoyed several additions and improvements. The school bell that stood atop Bonner's 1907 school building is permanently displayed in the school library, and every graduating class enjoys two traditions: running in the halls and ringing the bell. Just before you reach your destination, you pass Kelly Pine Field, named for an ace pitcher on the Mills baseball team in the 1930s. When Kelly Pine was killed in an automobile accident in 1937, his friends and teammates constructed the grandstand in his honor with lumber provided by the Anaconda Company. The grandstand was rebuilt in 2005. Land for the churches, both churches, the school, and the baseball field was donated by the Anaconda Company. And now you arrive at your home, once the home of a mill manager or supervisor. Only they could live in the company town's houses, and only as long as they worked at the mill. Perhaps you live on Stimson Boulevard, or White House Lane, the original entrance to the mill. Or you're at work, turning onto Bonner Mill Road. Bonner has a long history and was established along with the mill in 1886. None of the icons we just passed would be in existence today without the mill. And the mill itself would not exist today without the vision of Steve Nelson and Mike Boehme, who in 2011 took a shuttered mill and rundown houses and revitalized them, creating a new opportunity where individuals now lead Bonner into the future. It's my pleasure today to introduce Steve Nelson. Steve graduated from the University of Montana with a BA in economics. He served in the Army from 1970 to 1980 and the Army Reserve from 1980 to 1990, retiring as a major. Steve has had a long career with the restaurant industry, owning and operating the very popular Airport Restaurant and Lounge from 1981 to 2011. In addition, he has developed many recognized properties in Missoula. Mike Boehme and Steve started Bonner Property Development, LLC, in December of 2011, and we're going to learn more about this venture shortly. Steve continues to be active in real estate development and is a part owner of Big Sky Mobile Catering Incorporated, a catering company that feeds wildland firefighters all over the western United States. Steve is also active in many business and civic organizations, and he and his wife Shirley are well known for their philanthropic support of projects in Missoula and at the University of Montana. So please welcome Steve Nelson.
Get this tech. Whoop.
There it goes.
We okay? Can everybody hear me all right? Good, good. Move away from the picture. Okay. Okay. Judy, thank you. Wow. I look at this group and I see so many folks that I know that have nothing to do with the mill. I'm surprised that you're here. Lisa, what are you doing here? And I've got a nephew over here, Scotty and Kelsey and their kids. And anyway, I'm glad you're all here. This is pretty exciting. We're looking forward to it. I wanted to just recognize a couple people as we move along here. And obviously, my partner, Mike Boehme, we've been together since 1997. And I'm going to tell you a little story about how all this got started here in a minute. But Mike's been a super friend of mine and a great partner and a great person to collaborate with, and been an instrumental part in making this all come together. In addition to that, I'm going to recognize Mike Heisey, who is now a partner with us, and he's the guy that is the general manager now and does most of the work. We take the credit, he does all the work. I'd also like to recognize Jeff Moore. Jeff is the realtor that brought this project to us, and it was quite a process that we went through, but he brought it to us, and he's been our realtor for the last, well, since 1997. So I'm glad he's here, and thank you, Jeff, for everything you've done. What I hope to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about the past, and you've seen all this loop that we've got going of photographs and things of the way past. And then what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about the time we took over the mill, and then once we get to that, we'll see kind of a progression, I think, through some of these photographs and things, what has occurred over the last 10 years, and then we'll talk a little bit about the future of what we've got planned out here, and then we'll open it up for some questions and maybe even some stories. If any of you have some of those, we'd be interested to hear them, and be glad to share. We're going to talk about the past. So Jason, about the time, okay. So this, what I wanted to do is kind of show you in a I don't know, maybe I'm in the way here a little bit, but I wanted to show folks what we saw when we got here. And when we started to put this little project together, I am amazed at, you know, we see it every day, so it's kind of like watching yourself grow old in the mirror. You never think you're going to get old, and then you look at a picture 10 years ago and you say, wow, who's that young guy? And the mill's kind of that way. When we took it over, we were kind of wide-eyed and thinking, you know, what we were going to do, but we had no idea that we were going to end up where we are. And I look now, and I look at some of these pictures, and I look at where we are now, and I think, wow, we really have, there has been a transformation. And it hasn't been simple. It's been hard. A couple things that I do that I forgot to do that I wanted to recognize is 2 or 3 things. One, I talked about Jeff, the community of Missoula, and that includes MEP, the newspaper, the citizens, the commissioners, the county commissioners. Everybody has helped us along with this project and been so supportive and helpful in allowing us to move forward. And just, you know, we never could have done it without all that support. And people, you could just feel the uplifting of support from all the people in the community. It's remarkable, and we genuinely appreciate that. Lastly, you guys don't realize what Judy Matson does for this community. You probably do, but it is unbelievable. I mean, if you didn't have this star that's willing to every day, it seems like, go out and lead and show us the way as far as a community, it's phenomenal. She's very, very special. We are very lucky to have her. So here we are. This is about the time that we bought the mill. And just to kind of give you an idea, we've talked a little bit about the history, and you've seen all these old pictures, but for those of you that don't know, there was a gentleman by the name of A.B. Hammond that started the mill in 1886. And he's the guy that started the Mercantile in downtown Missoula. The Mercantile, A.B. Hammond became like a Bill Gates or a Dennis Washington. I mean, he, in the time that he was around in the early 1900s, he was what we would think of as a billionaire today. And he was a very astute businessman, very aggressive, and he started the mill. Somehow or other, he was able to get a contract with the railroad coming across Montana to provide the railroad ties for that whole railroad. And he built this mill based on that, and then did, you know, dimensional lumber and things like that besides. But he was sort of the beginning of all this. The Anaconda Company, which we've all heard of and know about, they were part of the Butte mine and that sort of thing. They purchased the mill in 1896, about 10 years after Hammond left. And interestingly, they paid $1.5 million, we're told, for the mill at that time. Well, the Anaconda Company then ran this mill for years. And then in 1972, around there, is when Champion International used to be part of the plywood, what's it called? But anyway, Champion International bought it, and in 1972, they paid $117 million for the property. That included timberlands and things like that too. But they ended up, I think they're the folks that started the mill, started the plywood plant. They built it. I have a friend that he was telling me the other day, and I was like, what? But he in 1972 was helping put those big curved beams up, and but that was in 1972. That was, I think, the largest wooden structure in North America at that time, and they were the largest plywood producing plant in at least North America, maybe the world, but it was a big deal. They had over 1,000 people working here at that time. And then they left in 1993, and that's when Stimson became the owner of the mill at that time. And it's interesting, I remember that because we had just started our catering company not long before that. And we actually did the picnic when that changed. We sat out here on the concrete pad out where, kind of where Willis Enterprises, the logging chipping operation is, and we served people. I think there was 1,500 people came to that picnic, and that was in 1993. It was a pretty cool experience. I had no idea at that time that we would end up with this mill at some point. So then we, and Stimson closed the thing down, the mill down in 2008, and then we hadn't even heard about it. And then one day we're having a glass of wine at Finn and Porter, and Jeff comes to us, Mike and I, and says, "Hey, I got a deal for you. What do you think?" And at that time he said, "I think I could sell you the planer building," and he gave us a number. I don't even know what it was, and we were kind of like, "Whoa, that's a little more than we're thinking about." And then my partner said, "Well, you think there's any chance?" Mike Boehme said, "Is there any chance we could get the White House too?" And so we were starting to get sucked in right away, and then before long, Jeff came to us a couple of days later, and probably over another glass of wine, and said, how about just buy the whole mill?" And then we were like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?" And we, in the process, of course, we had a wonderful bank that was helping us out, and we went to them, and I see my good friend Bill Boucher's over there in the corner now, and I was going to tell this whether he was here or not, but Bill said, "Don't do this. You guys are crazy. I mean, you're 65 years old. You've done okay. Just leave it alone. You don't need to mess around with this." And that was one of the few times in my life that I haven't followed Bill's recommendations. So anyway, we then decided that we were going to try to, and I'm going to kind of diverge a little bit here, but I think it's kind of an interesting story. So we started to do the due diligence and figure out what we could do, whether we could buy this mill or not. And my friend Dennis Lind, who's an attorney in town, and their firm was really good at environmental stuff, so we had them working on all the environmental side of what we were trying to do, or what was out here. And Stimson, to their credit, had an agreement already with the state of Montana, the Department of Environmental Quality, and they basically said, "Stimson, we're going to clean up whatever's here." And so we had Dennis making sure that that was all going to happen. In the meantime, we were looking at all the other kinds of things that could be an impact, or what are the possibilities. And I think there was 800,000 square feet of building at that time. They were all pretty tough shape, and the roofs were all getting ready to be replaced, and we were kind of looking at this thinking, well, what are we going to do? How can we make this thing happen? And just tell you a little bit about the purchase. So we ended up with we got an agreement with Stimson, and we were going to give them a third down in cash, and then they were going to finance the rest of it over a period of time. And we thought, well, if we can get started and get rolling with this thing, with this financing in place, we should be able to get some people some renters in here and get this thing rolling, and we'll make it happen. And so we're going along, and all of a sudden this is in probably March, April, something like that, about August, some guys flew in from Wichita, Kansas, and they had been buying some property and things, timberland properties from Stimson, so they kind of knew what was going on. And we didn't know this, but they came in and looked at it. They made Stimson an offer, and it was $600,000 more than our offer, plus it was all going to be cash. And we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do here? And there was a guy by the name of Jeff Weber, who was the operations manager for Stimson at the time, and he had given us his word that he was going to sell it to us under the conditions that we had talked about. So we went back. We know this is on the table. We think it's all going to go away and we're going to lose it and not have the opportunity. And anyway, so we, over in Dennis Lynn's office, I'll never forget it, we're sitting there and we called Jeff Weber on the phone and said, Jeff, what do you think? You know, this is what we hear is happening, or where are we at on this deal? And Jeff said, well, you can still buy it for the price that you've offered, but you got to pay cash. But otherwise, we're not going to, you know, we're going to stick with it. We'll stick with you. And this was like on a Thursday or Friday, and I was like, we're looking at each other and we're thinking, man, where are we going to come up with this cash? But we took a chance and we said, okay, we'll do it. So Monday, we got all the paperwork signed, and now we're on this new deal and we're ready to go. So we spent from August till December trying to figure out where we're going to get the money to make up the difference. And Jeff knew about Willis Enterprises, and they had been looking at here, and they had been looking out at Frenchtown, the mill out there, and to do their chipping operation. And so anyway, we got a deal with him to sell part of the property. So that gave us some cash. And then we went to the bank, and Bill and his crew, we mortgaged everything we had, and we raised enough cash. I think we were $150,000 short. And Barb Callahan, the banker there, said, Steve, if you'll just sign this piece of paper, I'll give you the other $150,000. So we got it. And now we got it. Now what are we going to do with it? And so we're out trying to find people to raise money to help do whatever. And I think most people thought, like Bill did in the beginning, that this wasn't a very smart deal. But somehow or other, we got through the process. We got the deal closed. Interestingly, Paul Willis, the guy that has the logging operation, we had a deal. We shook on it. We had the paperwork. He had never signed it. 3 days before, I'm going to calling Paul, and I'm trying to get a hold of him. He's down in Mexico on his yacht. I said, Paul, when are we going to get this money? We got to close in 3 days. And he laughed and he said, Steve, the money will be there. Sure enough, the next day, the money was in the account. So we were able to get this deal done. And when we started out, the way Stimson was running it, there was about $750,000 a year in negative cash flow. And I'm not terribly proud of this, but we had to let all the employees, there was just a security crew, but we had to let them go. So we didn't have any security. We kept one guy, and Tony Hubbard. Some of you probably know Tony, and he was great. And then we went without any insurance. We didn't have any insurance on the site, and we were lean and mean. And we were in the position that if you walked on this site and you were looking for some space, we were going to rent it to you. Didn't matter what the price was. We were going to rent it to you. You could not leave. It's kind of like Hotel California. Anyway, we started, and then with the help of Missoula Economic Partnership, the commissioners, all the people in our community started pushing people our way, and we just gradually started renting to people. Today, Mike and I, and we laugh about it, we say, why did we rent it so cheap? But we needed it. We couldn't have made it without that. And as we did it, we started getting better cash flow. And then about that time, and that's when I first met Mike, he had some folks from Mississippi that were going to build man camps for all the stuff that was going on in North Dakota. And We know how all that went. But anyway, it never happened. But we got to know Mike, and we liked what he was doing and how he went about things. And so we hired Mike and his cousin, a lady by the name of Marla, and we started remodeling all the homes on this side of the street. And and as you guys will recall, and maybe start to show a couple pictures. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, the houses were in pretty terrible, bad shape. But Mike, and we knew that if we could get those houses rented, now we had cash flow. And so we started one by one. I didn't, he did, he and his cousin. And we'd get a house ready, and we'd put it on the market, get it rented, go to the next one, go to the next one. After about a year, we had all 16 houses rented. And then not long after that, Britt Fred, who had Northwest Paint, they were renting from us. They were one of the first renters out here for us. They were probably the only tenant we had when we started. And Britt ended up buying that space. Well, we took that money and some of that money, and we bought the houses across the street, and that was more cash flow. And so that was our mode. We were going to, if we weren't going to spend a nickel unless it was going to get us 2 nickels back, and we just worked our way through that whole process. And I think we've kind of kept that attitude about it. I mean, we're not, I don't like to think we're cheap, but we're very, very careful about how we spend our money. And so over the years, good grief, we've probably put $10 million back into the property. And but I think, as you'll see by some of the photographs and things like that, that things have improved. So I got off on a tangent there. So so you can see, this is what, and this is a little bit before we bought it, because as some of you will recall, these 2 barrels fell down in 2010. And but everything, as you notice, all the roofs are black, and if you see any of the close-ups of the walls and things like that, they're in pretty tough shape. And now, and we'll show you in a little bit later, but you'll see white roofs on everything, which means that they're new. The walls are all metal. So, okay, Jason, what's next? Gradually, let's see. Yeah, let's just walk through this a little bit. So these are just pictures of what the mill looked like when we got here. And the reason I show this is because this is all metal. And you'll see inside some of the buildings as we move along, you'll see that there's a lot of metal. Well, we got lucky. Metal prices were quite high at that time. So we knew that we needed to tear these down. They were not useful anymore. So we ended up taking all this metal and sending it to Tacoma, and I think at that time they were sending it overseas, but we got pretty good prices for it. And here's the old A-frame. You guys, I mean, some of you folks here probably worked out here at that time. But there's the old A-frame, tore all that down. That roof on that A-frame, we sold to Heritage Timber. They resold it, and people have it on the sides of their houses and in their houses and that sort of thing now. But all of this came down. And we were, like I say, we were very lucky. Prices of scrap was very high at the time, and I don't know how many. I think we sent out about $500,000 worth of scrap during that period of time, and then we were able to use that money to continue to survive and to develop more of the property. Go ahead, Katie. These are just conveyors. Probably there's people here that know what they were all for. I don't. They were moving a lot of materials and things into the boilers and that sort of thing, and that's where they got all their heat. And there was no insulation in any of the buildings when we took over. They didn't need it. They had all this excess heat that they generated. More of the same. Now this is the sorter building, and you know, it's right over here. You guys, I had forgotten how bad it looked. And now you look today, and I'll show you some pictures of it today, but it's now home of a, and I'll get to that later too, but it's the home of a fulfillment center. Okay, Jason, a little more, okay. And then here was the repository, and That finally got removed about a year ago. We got all that removed. And so now the site is basically clean, and we don't have any storage of any contaminated material on site, and it's a clean industrial site. But this is just inside the sorter building, and it's kind of hard to see, but lots of metal and conveyors and that sort of thing. But if you could look down there, you'd see lots of dirt floor, no insulation, and now it's got a nice concrete floor, and it's all insulated, got heating in it, and new doors and that sort of thing. This is upstairs in the plywood or not the plywood, but the sawmill building. And now that's office space, looks really nice. That's where the offices and that sort of thing are for the Big Sky fulfillment. Go ahead. And then just an overhead shot, just to kind of give you an idea what it was like. And this is the forge building, and you can see what the roofs look like, and all these different colors and patchwork and all that's new now. New roof on the stone building. This did have by that time we'd gotten the new roof put on the plywood building. So go ahead, Katie. Just to show you, up here is the water tank. It's a 500,000 gallon water tank, provides all the water for the fire suppression system. This is looking from the river at the plywood building, and no metal, just all old plywood. Doesn't show up great, but anyway, it's now all metal siding. Go ahead. Same thing here. Now you're moving into, like right here, this is Northwest Paint, which is now owned by Universal Forest Products. Go ahead. More of the same. There's back to that one. Jeez. And this is all steel clad now, but this is the maintenance building for Willis Enterprises. Next. And then we're looking down at the Northwest Paint. That's all changed color, got siding on it. Keep going. And then this is the end of the plywood building, and I bet somebody in here, this is where they brought all the logs in and peeled them. You can see there's a little peeling machine back here where they peel it, and that's where the veneer came from, and plywood was made after that. Keep going. And the good thing for us was it was scrap metal that we could sell. Go ahead. And then now we're looking at the inside of the sorter or the planer building, and this lower portion down here, that's where Bob and Planetary Design, they're located in there. These tracks are now gone. There's a big dust abatement system, lots of wood and lumber and that sort of thing stacked out there. Go ahead. Another end of the planer building. Now we used to run rail cars in there, and now the rail cars don't go in there anymore. They've got everything filled in with concrete, and there's systems in there where they're resawing lumber, and it's incredible what they've got going in there. A little more of the same, and all these offices have been redone. Offices on the top floor in here. It's very cool, very nice. Go ahead. And then that's just a picture of the inside. You saw on the loop where this was being built in 1962, and this is now what's in there now. But this was before we got it rented to Universal Forest Products. Go ahead. Okay. We always thought these big cranes that they had were going to be a big deal for us, and we were going to be able to really capitalize on that, and I don't think we've ever used one. And they're so big and heavy that we can't get them off of there, so we can turn them into scrap. So they just sit there. Keep going. And this is looking over to the White House, and this is before the repository was put on here. So this was probably 2000. It was because I think the repository was built just about the time that we bought, so that fall of 2011. But that's looking across there. That's where the old dry kilns used to be. Okay, go ahead. Then looking down, just wanted to point out, and I don't know whether Andrew or some of the, at one of these points towards the end, I'm going to ask the homeowners to just stand up but this was that house on the corner right across from the post office. Next one. A little bit different now. When I reviewed those and looked at those, I was like, oh my God, that's quite a change. Keep going, Jace. Yeah. And I think this, Kelsey, you're not here, are you? But anyway, you can see what they were like. Some of them were jacked up, and we put new foundations under them. Okay. Okay. So I got a little drone footage here that we've taken, and is that where we are now, Jason? Okay, we're going to get there. Bear with us. So we did some drone footage of the site. It's probably 2 or 3 years old, but it'll give you a feel as to some of the things that have been accomplished and some of the things that have even been accomplished in the last 3 or 4 years. While he's working on that, just a couple things so over the years, we've put, I'd call it lipstick on a pig. You put a metal siding on an old, plywood siding. It looks better, it makes it last longer, but there are so many things but you see that, but what you don't see is the fire system, for example. Mike, what have we changed? 50, 60 leaking joins in the fire system. We've replaced some of the fire system that was the underground water system that nobody ever sees, nobody thinks about, but you have to have it. We probably had the old valves. I bet somebody in here used to work on them, but the old fire valves, 60, probably 60 or 70 of those have all been replaced. The only one that has not been replaced is the one in the forge building, and we plan on doing that this year. But since all that time, and those make you no money, but you got to have it in order to be able to lease it to people that responsible people and that sort of thing. And then if you're going to insure it, which we do insure now, you got to have fire systems. Power. At one time, they used so much power that they were in a kind of a different system than we are. Now we're with Northwest Energy. They provide all of our power, so we've had to go through most of the units and put in new metering, new power systems, that sort of thing. We've got almost the entire site, and if we can't get that, Jason, we'll just go to oh, you do? And it's only 4 minutes, so it'll just give you an idea what's going on. But yeah, okay. So this is just talking about a little bit, we introduced this just like we did today. A lot of the old, I don't think any of you guys are in here for those. There's the old Margaret Hotel. One thing and this is kind of more new, what we're looking at, but this is Willis's operation. You can see all the roofs, not all, but almost all of the roofs are new now. This was the old plywood building that fell down. And then right in here now, interestingly, Universal Forest Products has built 2 buildings. So they got one here and then just another one here that they just finished up. And then moving along. This is all Willis, of course, and their chipping operations. This is Northwest Paint, and different color now, and that was Britt Fred at the time, and they've sold since then to Universal Forest Products. And we'll get into each of those as we move along. This is the planer building. This is about the time that the Bitcoin mining operation was in there, and they have since gone, obviously, and probably we just got lucky again. But Universal Forest Products comes along, and now they lease that entire 240,000 square feet. This is where Coaster Pedicabs, and we'll talk about them a little bit. And that's kind of within their operation where they build these pedicabs. This is the sorter building, which is now the Big Sky Fulfillment. We painted this. Of course, we were really smart. We painted it because we thought we could do it and make it look good. And then we ended up putting metal on top of the paint. So, and then you're going along the shoreline here. This is where we are right now, obviously. That's Kettle House, and then behind it, and we'll show you that, is the amphitheater, and we'll talk to you about that a little bit later. And then we'll be able to see coming up here the houses, and these are when they're pretty much about the time we started to sell them and get them ready for sale, and this is the White House, and right now we have Bravo Catering in there, and we'll announce today, I don't know whether, yeah, Anna's here, and we've got somebody else to fill the rest of that. So we're going to remodel the rest of the White House for Posh Chocolate. And so what do we got? Credits coming? So just so we give everybody credit, you know, the people that put this together, and, you know, we've got some names on here, and I think it's a responsible thing to do to make sure that people are, you know, these are a lot of the tenants that are on site. And then my plug for Jeff again. And then the photos, we've had collaboration by all kinds of people to help us with it, and Elizabeth put this together for us. So. Okay, how we doing for time? Doing all right? Okay. So, you're going to give us a picture of the overhead of the mill now? Jason, is that where we're going? Okay, yeah. So, as you can... Zoom in now? Well, go back to that real quick. So, as you can see, this is kind of the mill as it is not too long ago, and lots of white roofs, so we've been able to get that all taken care of, get it up to date. If you could see it, most of this is all iron or metal clad, and probably by the end of this year we'll have metal clad buildings on everything. So then let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And can you, I think what we'll do here is, now are you ready to zoom in on a couple of these if we want to? So what I'd like to do now is talk about the present, where we at today, who's here, and maybe if I could just, the folks that are tenants, I know I've got some here, if you'd raise your hand, and then what I'm going to do, there's Bob, Planetary, Anna's with Posh Chocolate. I don't know whether there's anybody. Oh, Dan. So when I get to these, I'm going to ask, and I would rather have Dan Torty tell me what's going on at Kettle House than me try to tell you. So we'll start through that process, and then if we don't have a representative, then I'll go ahead and tell you what I know about what they're doing. So. just a quickie before we start. When we took over the mill, we had Northwest Paint, and they probably had 15 employees. It's shocking to me, but today there's probably over 650 people working out here every day. It's phenomenal. And not, thank you. They're not our employees, but that's what these wonderful companies have done. And we'll talk about how much each one of them, what the employees and the numbers and that sort of thing a little bit, what they do. But it's pretty cool for little old Bonner, Montana. I think it's very cool. So Jason, can we let's start with the firehouse? Okay. So we'll just start and we'll work our way through the mill. And so here is the new, the old Piltsville firehouse is now there. And it's first class. It's, they have 5 or 6 people working there all the time, staying there 24/7. Willis Enterprises was kind enough to sell them that 1.5 acres. And we absolutely love that they're on site. So that if we did have a problem, they can be on top of it in a heartbeat. And I've talked to Chris Newman about it. They're excited about it. It's great for the community, the entire community, and it's great for us. Right over here, I don't know whether I can, but you guys see the yellow buses. They're all there. That's Majestic Bus. They provide all the transportation for the kids out of the Bonner School. And moving along, then we've got Willis Enterprises. Anybody, Rob, anybody here from Willis? Okay. So Willis Enterprises probably got about 10 to 12 people working, depending. And they are, as probably you know, but they're taking lots of beetle kill, timber, that sort of thing that can't be used in a dimensional sawmill, and they chip it. And right now they're taking about 12 rail cars a week over to Wallula, which is a paper plant in Washington, around the Tri-Cities. And then they're running some truckloads down to Lewiston, Idaho. There's another paper plant down there. And I think they're doing fine. They own that roughly 40 acres. And Paul was the one I told you about earlier that came at the last minute with the money that he promised us and did do it. Okay, moving along. Next, we'll go to, let's do Universal Forest Products. And this is these 2 barrels plus these buildings, that's Universal Forest Products. This one over here, and this is mainly the painting, where they take siding and they bring in siding, repaint it, and bake the paint on, and then ship it back out. And they probably have close to 60 people working there now. And then I'll just continue on with this building, or with the old plywood building. I'm sorry? Yes, yeah. So to continue with UFP, Universal Forest Products has this entire building now. And that's 240,000 square feet. And I'd love, some of you guys that worked in there, but it's full of saws, chains, moving lumber along. It's what a mill ought to look like. But they have about 80 people working in there now. They want to get to 170, plus the 60 over here. So pretty exciting, good for Missoula, good for us. I think all of these guys have figured out that they got to pay a little better, and they're all paying probably in the $18 to $20 an hour for starting and benefits. So it's exciting. Back over here, then you got this flat portion of the building. Northwest Paint has probably about their back, and then the rest, this whole end here is Paramount, which the tenant that we deal with is called Fire and Ice, but it's Yellowstone. It's the folks that make the sets and things. They build the sets in here, and then they take them across the river to that big building that's over there, and that's where they get ready for Yellowstone. And they have probably 30 people or so. Kind of an interesting thing that I was watching them, And I drive by there, and I saw this nice porch that was being built, brand new. It was beautiful. And I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. And then the next week or something, I drive by, it's on fire, sitting out. And they obviously had a fire in Yellowstone, wherever it is, and that's how they did it. And I mean, what they build is so cool. It's beautiful stuff, but it's not very substantial. It's got to be thrown away right away. But anyway, pretty cool. But anyway, so they lease about 26,000 feet in there. And then one of our original tenant was in here with Hellgate Forge, but one of our very early, 2013, Alcom came in and they had rented just this portion right here. And they had 25 employees, and Missoula Economic Partnership brought them to us. And the reason they came, I think once they got here and got to know people in Missoula, they knew that they needed to be here. But the guy that was the CEO at the time, the reason, he was from Maine, and they needed something in the Northwest or something out here to expand their business. But he played hockey in Helena, and he remembered Missoula, and he remembered how beautiful western Montana was, and he thought, we need to be here. And then once the folks from Missoula Economic Partnership got a hold of them, they weren't leaving, and then when they came saw us, we weren't going to let them go either. So, but they started out with 25 people in there building trailers, 289 people working there in a day. They used to be kind of, I would call, is there anybody here from Alcom? I better be careful. So anyway, they were great, and but they were always on the low end of the spectrum as far as pay. And then Mike helped me about a year ago. One Tuesday, I remember they said, you know what we're going to do? Everybody in our plant gets a $4 an hour raise. And they used to have like a tardiness on Mondays, like 15 people or so out of 150. They had one after that. And now they're paying well, and they're taking care of their employees. They don't have the turnover, and pretty exciting. They can build about, being nobody's here, they can't tell me I'm lying to you, but they build somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 trailers a day they can build. And what are we talking? I know at one time they were talking 70, 80, I think now they're talking over $100 million worth of trailers coming out of there. Am I close? Somewhere in there? Okay. So that's how many trailers are being produced out of there. And if you're around, you see the trucks going out on the line or out on the highway all the time. It's every day there's 8, 9, 10 trucks. So it's very, very exciting. And I think they would like to get closer to 300 people. So we're excited about that. Can you slide that up a little bit? Okay. So, and then you can see all the trailers parked. That's their excess. And they're moving them out in a heartbeat, but it's pretty exciting to see all those trailers out there. This is the Hellgate Forge. Darren, Brian, either one of you guys here? Okay. So they were absolutely, other than Northwest Paint, they were our first tenant. And Darren does all kinds of metal work. Let me make sure I get this right. And I got to go back to the soap deal. So I've missed that. So, but anyway, back to Hellgate. Okay, he's got about 10 employees. He has one of the things that I think's neat, other than all the metal fabrication that he does, and he does some really cool forge work and decorative kinds of things. But in fact, all these tables, he built these, and then these tops came out of the river. They were logs that were submerged in the river. And so Darren built all these for Kettle House, which was pretty cool. The other thing they do that I think is kind of cool is they do the blanks. They take 4x8 sheets of steel, and they do the blanks for zombie swords. Now, who would have thought? We have become, Missoula is one of the highest producing zombie cord in the world, I guess. Who knows? The other thing is they cut blanks for Rwana knives, which you guys all know about. There's these other knife manufacturers, I don't know much about them, but if I tried to say them, then I'd have it wrong. But there's several others that they do that for. So it's a pretty nice business that he's got going there, and we're really excited to have Darren there. So go back to the soap building. Okay, so this is the new building that's right across from the churches, and right now there's another smaller 4,000 square foot added onto that, but that's Botany Soap. And Tim, did you make it? I'll turn it over to you. You tell us how many people and how many thousands of bars of soap and the new products you're doing and that sort of thing. You want to come up? Oh, he's got a microphone even. Okay.
It looks like, oh, I don't have to hold it that close.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a mobile mic. Sure, I'm Tim. I run a company that manufactures bar and liquid soap. We sell to small businesses and medium-sized businesses that then brand it as their own. So we're a custom manufacturing shop. And on average, I think what we said our normal monthly output is somewhere between 75 and 100,000 bars of soap a month. In peak seasons, we can go higher. We also do liquid soap. I don't have those numbers for you. One we might capture is that everything we make comes from plant-based vegetable oils or plant oils as a whole. That's the basis for everything. And last year we went through 190,000 pounds of oil. So we have 20 employees. We started as a farmer's market booth, worked our way up. I loved hearing Mike's story because that's everybody's story, right? I mean, you never know what's coming the next day. You sort of go for it, you sort of wing it. And I remember meeting with Jeff and with Mike Heisey, and eventually it came together, but we're thrilled to be here. We have the only new building on the site, which is phenomenal. Came in right at the right time, so no improvements or repairs. I do have to talk to you about the ice, though. I'm sorry, I'm just giving you a rough time. Yeah. Okay. It's been lovely. We're thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be part of this community. Thrilled that we have 20 people full time, and this is a wonderful place to be. So thanks to everybody who's been part of it.
We've got later. We've got, and we might have more than that, but we have another company that's here, going to be here. And they started, am I right, Anna, at the farmer's market? Yes. Yeah, I'll come back to you, but they, that's how things happen. That's how things happen. And no, it's pretty exciting. So planetary design, let's go back. So planetary is right in here, and where these offices are. They used to be the offices for the old lumber mill, and we remodeled them, and Bob is here, and can we get him a microphone? Do you want to just say a couple words, Bob, about planetary design, what you do, and where you're going? And
so I'm the GM at Planetary Design, and on my business card it says Chief Historian, so I'm glad to be part of this history thing. And the only reason I have that title is because I've been there the longest, I guess. Been there 15 years. But we moved into the Bonner, into that section that Steve was just pointing at 6 years ago, and it's been such a good experience for us, and we've grown. I think we were at 7 employees at the time. We're at 20 also now, and filled up our 17,000 square feet of warehouse space. We're renting a little bit next to you because we need some overflow, and we've just seen good growth, and we just feel like this is a place where we really feel community. And then May of 2021, we bought a house, one of the houses, the one just to the, I guess, the south of the post office there. So we use that for our owner, who still is out of state, getting ready to move back to Montana full time, spends time there, as well as it's been a good place for us to, when we've hired younger people who are having a tough time finding housing, we've been able to use that house for that. So been a great experience, and we just want to continue to grow in our community relationships here.
right.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
So also in there, real quick, is called WMS Contracting, and Will Andrews is that right, Mike? Will Andrews, is that who it is? Yeah. So Will, he's not here, is he? No. But anyway, Will does spraying. He's got like 10 or 12 of these quad bikes and things like that, and they go out and they have government contracts. They do private contracting besides, and so they've got a pretty good size space in there. In addition, back over in this corner is permafloors, and Fraser's got big trucks that they do this liquid, kind of like gypcrete, if you know what that is, but they can pour concrete in high rises and things like that, and it creates good insulation, and the floor is level. You know, you can pre-level floors, do things like that. But so he's been there for quite a while. I talked to you about Fire and Ice, Coaster Pedicab, which is in most of this building, and they build bikes for not only transportation, for moving around like baseball stadiums and things like that, people moving because parking's quite a ways away. And then they've gotten into building bikes for delivery, for people like, I think they've done some with Amazon, they're doing some with FedEx and things like that, UPS and that sort of thing. Also in this building, right? Sorry. That's okay. You will not get fired, I'll tell you. Right in here is a little company called Freestone Concrete. They've only got 2 or 3 employees, but concrete countertops, all the kind of things you can imagine to do with concrete, fancy stuff for nice houses. It's kind of an alternative to granite and some of those kinds of things. In the back of this building back here, there's a young fella, Gen. He is, it's Yama is the name of his company. It's only online, and he builds, there's him, and then sometimes he has a second person, but he builds backpacks and tents, like if you're an overnight camper and you're a bike or a backpacker, that sort of thing. He builds that kind of gear. You buy it online, and interesting story about Gen. And it always shocks me when I find out why people move to Missoula, Montana, but he had his business in Charlottesville, Virginia. He was driving through, and he stopped to do some biking, ran into some people, and he said, I'm doing my business here. And he came and talked to Jeff and Mike and talked to us about it, and we said, well, yeah, we can do this. Well, so we remodeled some space for him, put him in there, and he's been there, what, 3 years now? Yeah, so why you would leave, you know, your Charlottesville, your place you want to, you know, you would think, but anyway, he loves it here, and it's great for us and great for him. So now let's move to, am I right in here? The back side of, well, you can't do the back, but this is the old sawmill building, and it used to go clear out by the river, and now it's cut off there. But anyway, we have a company in there called Montana Bullet Works, right? And they don't create ammunition, they just create the lead bullets. So you see big pallets of bars of lead coming in, and they're in there and they're melting it and turning it into bullets. And they've got these little machines in there that do it automatically, and then they box them up and put them in things and sell them to, I think, the ammunition outfit down in Stevensville and probably all over, right? Yeah, but anyway, they have 3 or 4 people. Then there's, okay, this is Big Sky Fulfillment. They're kind of an Amazon type thing that you would think about. Some of the things that I think about what they do, like they'll take, if you go to, I'll say it wrong, but it's either QVC or QMC or somebody like that, the television network where you can buy stuff online, whatever that is. And, okay. So anyway, I watched them one day. I was like, what the heck are you doing? And they have these pitchers, big, nice pitchers, water pitchers or something, and And I'm looking at them, and they're breaking down great big boxes of maybe 15 or 20 of these pictures, and they're putting them into little boxes. And then they send them out. And so when they get the orders, they just roll them over, put them in little boxes and send them out. Another one they do is keto food, diet stuff. You can tell I don't use it because I need to be on a diet, but I'm not. But so they bring all this stuff in, and then in semi-loads, and then they package it and mail it out. So it's kind of a well, it is. It's a fulfillment center, and they're leasing 60-some thousand square feet from us, and they've been here about 2 years now. They're a company that started out about 5 years ago. He's a University of Montana grad, and young fella, probably in his early 30s, and he started out at about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet, went to 20, and now he's at 60-some thousand feet, and there is some discussion about he wants to grow. So we're excited about that. Then over here in the White House is Bravo Catering, and he's got about 10 employees. Bravo Catering just bought his, we used to be Big Sky Mobile Catering. We owned a big portion of his company, or part of it, and now Ryan has bought us out of that, and that's his deal all by himself, which we're excited for him and excited for that whole thing to go ahead. He has anywhere from 8 to 15 to 20 people working, depending on what's going on. I'm gonna wait, Anna, just for a little bit with you. But Kettle House. So, and I don't know, but I think Tim's got about 25 people working here. Is there anybody who wants to speak for Kettle House, or shall I just go ahead? Okay. So they've got about 25, 30 people working here. We all know what a success Cold Smoke is, and the different kinds of beers and things that they do here. And they've built this fantastic facility, and we're just really, really excited to have them here. And then next to them is the amphitheater. And Dan, I'll let you, would somebody hand Dan the microphone? Dan is, I don't know, CEO, whatever you are. The boss. Tell us a little bit about amphitheater.
It's on.
Cool.
So just
Yep. So my name's Dan. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Logjam. So I oversee all the events happening in that venue right there, as well as Missoula and Bozeman. We're honored to be a part of this community. It's been great being here since 2017. The venue continues seeing growth. We opened in 2017. We did 7 events. Last year we did 31 events, well over 100,000 tickets. Since we've opened, we've done, I believe, 107 events there, have sold over 300,000 tickets to residents of all 50 states, and are every year rank in the top 50 amphitheaters in the world. 2021, we also, 2021, we were nominated for Outdoor Venue of the Year. That's up against the Greek Theater in Los Angeles and some major venues in the country. We didn't win, we were nominated, but seeing Bonner, Montana up against those other venues is really cool. It takes about 100 employees a show to run that, and that's local staff. That's from the box office all the way to backstage. So I'd say, anywhere on average 90 to 100 people to manage one of those shows. And yeah, we look forward to many more years of music on the Blackfoot.
Excellent. Thanks. Right here. All in there. They lease some space from us over here, all along here. And once in a while, they might park in front of your house. Okay, so Anna, would you, Gary, give Anna that real pretty lady back there? So this is Posh Chocolate, and they're not here yet, but they just signed a lease, and they're going to be in the upper floor of the White House, and guess what? They make chocolate.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about what you got going on, Anna.
Right now, Valentine's. So I own Posh Chocolat with my husband Jason. He's in Vegas right now, probably gambling. No, he's in a chocolate show. We're looking at new equipment and everything because we're very excited to move to the White House, and we want to turn this into not only our factory, but a place where people can come and see what we do tours, classes, birthday parties, and just we're very excited. Funny enough, we first started in '05. We had our first kitchen in the Wilma historic building, sold to Logjam. Then we had another kitchen, we were just growing, and then we had our retail shop in the Florence, another historic place. And now we're moving here, another historic place, and we are just ready. Hopefully by, I would say next fall, we'll be here, and we welcome all of you with lots of chocolate.
Thank you. So, can you get it on the houses? Is that where I'm at next? I never introduced Jason. Jason Vaughn is our technical guy. He works for Bonner Property Development, and can do anything. He's really, really good at the technical kinds of stuff. It's phenomenal, and he's an invaluable resource for us. But he can also swing a hammer, drive a dump truck, do whatever he needs to do. So thank you, Jason. So now, are there any homeowners here? You don't have to speak. So we got a few. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So yeah, Jay. Yeah. So we decided a couple years ago that we were going to start selling some homes. The market looked right, and we were frankly not very good probably at being landlords for houses. I think we're pretty good at the commercial side of it, but we were chasing our tails and making some mistakes, and we just decided that we ought to, and the market was really good at the time, and I think still pretty good. And so on the other side of the street, we sold all those houses last year, and then this year, because they were subdivided, so we could sell those immediately. And then this side, probably the last year, we've been working on getting a subdivision approved so that we could have what we call Bonner Homes West. That's these houses on the mill side, and we've sold almost all of them. We have 3 houses left, right? Yeah, there's 3 houses left. One of them we're going to keep and have our security girl stay in that. We like her so much that we don't want to have the potential of losing her because she might, not be able to find a place to live. So we're going to make sure that she has a place to live and that we're going to have her there. And then on the other side of the street, the old, what we call Bonner Homes, we have one house at the very back over there by the railroad tracks. That we still own, and then we own the post office. Annalise, did Annalise, is she here? No, but Annalise Heddall, she's Jeff helped too, and helped us pick Annalise, and Annalise did most of the real estate sales, and so we were really fortunate to have somebody with that kind of pedigree and of the quality that Annalise is. So now we've talked about the past and the present, and we'll just talk a little bit about the future. And we don't have a whole lot, but we'll talk about it. And then we'll open it up for any questions, or if somebody wants to tell a story, they can tell a story. So the future, obviously, Posh Chocolate is, and I think we said that they started in the farmer's market. And we're going to renovate the upper floor of the White House, and hopefully, don't hold me to this, but maybe June, July, something like that. She's saying prayers, and we are too. But hopefully, we can get them in there by that time. So we're excited about that. Right at the end of White House Lane, we're going to probably put an electronic gate in there so that because they need deliveries, so does Bravo. and you'd have trucks getting locked in there and couldn't get out. And that way the homeowners that live on White House Lane will have a place to come in and turn and get back out without having to do a 3-point turn every time. We have pretty much replaced the entire water, and I talk about potable water this time. We did it on the Bonner Home side. We replaced all of that. Now we've done it pretty much all on this side of the mill, and we've probably got another 100 yards of water line that we need to replace, and we're going to do that this year. We're hoping, and then Jason, can you go to that overhead again? Okay. So yeah, that's fine. So back here, we're looking at building a couple 20,000 square foot buildings. We've got some potential. We think we can move some people around and so that's sort of on the books. We've got a couple regulatory kinds of things that we're kind of dealing with that we've got to figure out, but we think we can make that happen. And then right about in here, we're going to build another drain field or a sewer system for 250, somewhere in there. So that would handle these two buildings. If we ever got bigger in this building with employees, more than 40, we'd accommodate that. And then at the same time, we do plan on building something at some point on the repository. And then we would have a sewer system that would be, because that's the thing that bothers, or that we have to look at first. When you go to decide a building, first thing you really got to look at is, well, first of all, does it fit within the parameters of setbacks and all that? But the other thing is you got to make sure you got a place for sewer. And so that's why we're going to do that. We're in the process of that. It's at DEQ. Yeah, it's at DEQ. It takes quite a while to get the process done. But as soon as that's done, probably in the spring, if everything else works out and we can figure out how to get these buildings back there, then we'll go ahead and build that sewer system. Then around UFP, if you notice now, there's just lumber stacked everywhere, and we're probably going to end up, we've been talking to them about it, but I think we're going to end up having to pave a lot of that stuff because with forklifts and all those kinds of things moving around, you can't just do it on gravel. And so I think probably in the spring you'll see us doing a pretty major deal there. And then lastly, and there's other things that we're thinking about, but lastly, this property, where am I at? Back behind here, behind these houses, there's probably 9 or 10 acres back there, and we're going to explore the possibility. It's zoned neighborhood residential, and we're going to explore the possibility of maybe doing some kind of a multifamily deal in there. Very, very preliminary, but there again, the biggest issue is going to be sewer. How do we negotiate and figure out how to find enough space? Because every time you have a sewer system, you got to have a replacement for it, so it takes up a lot of property. But that's one of the priorities of the county. It would be one of our priorities too, is to try to figure out how to maximize that space. So that's one of the things we're looking at. So that's all I got. So let's open it up to questions. I think we're probably we got a little bit of time. So if anybody has any, way in the back.
So one thing you didn't mention is last year you and your partners purchased Bee Hill and put a conservation easement on it with Five Valleys Land Trust.
Yep.
I'm on the board of Five Valleys. Thank you very much for that. And I think the community certainly appreciates that endeavor to keep that as a space available to the community. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, we were excited to do that, and I just left it out. I'm sorry, but
It has the water tower in it.
It does, and so we had a little bit of a fiscal reason to buy it, but no, we just knew that it was the right thing to do, and by the Five Valley Land Trust getting involved with the conservation easement, it allowed us to be able to do that, and now it'll just be like that. No condos up there. It's just going to be like it is, and we're really, really excited about that. And I think Mike helped me a little bit, but I think that there's some discussion about at this end, right across here, we're going to have some kind of a, rather than go to the road or whatever, there's going to be a way that if you were walking behind the houses or whatever, you could go and get on that road, and then you could walk up by the water tank and go up all through that property, come out back over by, not quite Piltsville, but over by those houses along there. There's trails that run along and then come down through Garnet and that sort of thing. So and Five Valley's helping us with that. They're doing a lot of the work, or most of the work, but anyway, we're excited about that. That'll be real cool for the community. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Any thought of any thought of developing along the riverfront some sort of public path or whatever?
Well, so no, but see, what we're finding out, we just learn stuff all the time, but we understand now, and it's right, there's a riparian 50-foot buffer, or not buffer, but a riparian zone that's 50 feet from the high water mark. And then there's another 125 feet that's what they call a riparian buffer. But to talk about the trail, so that gets us over the top a little bit. In fact, it gets us to where it kind of squeezes us a little bit on whether we can build buildings behind there. But we're working on that, and the county's being really good about listening to us and being creative. Can I talk about the back, the trail? So what we've talked to some of the folks in the trail business about is maybe behind the houses on Bonner, where the alley is, maybe doing something back there so that it would connect with the other parts of the trail system. We've even talked about maybe getting something going with the railroad, that old rail track that runs back there. Maybe that could be where the trail runs. So that's what we're talking about. But we think with the riparian and the riparian buffer that it'll be difficult to do something along there. So I hope that answers your question. Anybody else? Yes, Bert. I would be surprised if you didn't have a question.
I didn't want to disappoint. Yeah, let me have that. Just out of curiosity, out of the 600 or 700 employees you've got, how many are from the Bonner Milltown area? You got any idea?
I don't. I do know. I don't know, but I do know that there are. Well, Jay and where's Jay? Where's he at? Okay, and is it Tracy? Did I? Stacy. Yep. They bought a house over here, and she works at Big Sky Fulfillment. I know there's other people that are living in the houses that work here. I just don't know the number. We should probably try to figure that out.
Yeah, just curiosity.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know. Yeah. Mike, go ahead. Oh. Hey, boss.
Hi there. I don't really have a question, but my name's Jim Howard. I'm the superintendent at Bonner School, and I'm not really wearing my uniform today, I guess. Didn't expect to be at the mic, but I guess I want to express on behalf of the school what good neighbors Steve and Mike have been to Bonner School, to Bonner students, our staff. They just, anytime, I mean, we need anything, I know I can come sort of hat in hand, and they're just so generous. And they also have connected us to so many of the other entities here on the site that support our school and our students. So we're really grateful for the relationship and the vision of progress and doing things right for our community. Then we appreciate you a lot. So.
Thank you. Is this a two-part question, Bert?
It's not a question, okay? I want to support what Jim just said and say that as the past president or chair of the Bonner Milltown Council, I've said this a number of times, Steve and Mike have done a great job of being community partners, members. We had a problem with Bitcoin. Steve showed up every day. Every time there was a council meeting, he showed up to help. And you can't ask for a better neighbor.
Thank you.
Okay?
I've got two things, sorry. One is a concert story. We at the St. Anne Catholic Church sell parking in our parking lot, and we are 3/4 of a mile from the front gate. We've measured it off, but sometimes we get it filled. One of those concerts was the Billy Strings concert this past summer. And my wife and I were parking for the first, they had them back to back and they sold out immediately. So who the heck is this Billy Strings? And we found out. We took our bikes after we got done parking and the concert was just beginning. We took our bikes from the church down up to the post office basically and counted license plates from different states. And there's a lot of Montanas, of course, but we counted license plates from 25 different states parked along the highway there. And I don't know what that means other than Billy Strings has a broad appeal, probably. The other thing is, when you're showing the buildings and what they've become, I'm watching guys in this table right here, Fred and Max, and they're shaking their head. Well, not only them, but they're shaking their heads, and I wonder if there's not a way we can kind of portray what they used to be, what these buildings used to be. I don't know if we can get those pictures back. Like the stone building is just a fascinating looking building, but what did it used to be? And with that, I might hand the mic over to that table.
No. It was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think the best information resource would be Rick Swanson. I know I've seen him in here, but he worked in there. We had a warehouse in there, but that building has always been here. The earliest pictures I've ever collected, you'll see that building. But I think, Rick, I hate to put you on the spot, but I think you're more knowledgeable on that building than anybody here.
Oh, Rick. I wasn't sure what Rick they were talking about. No, I didn't.
That's good.
That's all right.
Well, I can give you a little on the on the warehouse. I was there for must be 30 years anyway.
Wow.
And in there, I had a job where I had to receive all of the products that were brought in by truck or on the railroad car. And when I first started, when Thibodeau was our boss, we also made houses, built houses, and they were shipped all over. I think one of the biggest was the ones up to Alaska that was shipped on a barge, and they had some trouble with the pieces weren't right, but they sent Fred Treichel up, and he straightened it out to his knowledge, and also being shipped up there entailed very many of the, should I say, problems going from barge to a boat that would go up there. Down here, it was everything that came in, I had to check in to see everything was there. And there were times when we had 2-3 trucks, and then I also had to get the UPS when they came in, and everything that was brought in, I had to check it. And yeah, all the local people that was in Missoula that was bringing out the material, they had to be checked too. So I was quite busy. And then when the plywood got here to build, they had all kinds of trucks coming in, and each one I had to check out. And we put it over in the old, well, I don't know what you call it now, but it was in the planer building on the far end where the railroad came in. And it was quite the job, and I enjoyed it.
Cool.
So I guess that would be enough.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
I think so.
Gary, you got this gentleman over here. He wants the mic over here, Gary. Oh, sorry. You.
Okay, I'm just gonna hopefully not talk for too long, but for Rick is an old timer. He said he had 30 years. Well, I'm an old timer also. I had 37 years with Anaconda and then Champion International. And the Margaret Hotel, that beautiful hotel, I started in 1956, and I think they tore it down in 57, and I remember they told me that it was going to be torn down, and so I did get a tour of that beautiful hotel. And I thought that was the worst thing in the world that they should have done. It should have been kept, you know, for a historic building or whatever. But anyway, somebody in Butte, Montana made that decision, so I had nothing to say about it. So one other thing I wanted to mention, Jerry and I started in 1956, August 1, and then in, I think it was 58, Jerry and I were able to rent a company house, and we lived there for 12 years. And I don't mean to offend you.
You won't.
Mr. Nelson. But we started, I think it was $25 a month when we started renting. We rented for 12 years, and the rent was $56 a month.
How'd you afford it?
Yeah, well, and I really went, you know, I was just a little old secretary. I wasn't really making all that much money. But we were very pleased to live in a company house. And, you know, they were pretty nice houses. At least we lived right across from the post office. And then I know you've done a lot of maintenance, and we did most of them. And that's a compliment to you. We're very pleased to have you into our community. We did build, our new home is on the Bonner Pines, just off of Garnett. You mentioned a trail and so on going there. So we've been in that house. It'll be 50 years actually in October. So we're kind of old timers around here. We've seen a lot of history over the years, and I think everybody in the community here, we're very, very excited to have you here. And I cannot believe what you've laid out here, what your plans are. I think it's just great.
Thank you.
And so we welcome you to our community. Thank you.
I guess Gary, this. Oh, sorry.
This is Ken Pierce. The thing I wanted to, it might bring up some bad feelings, but how this all started when I was on the community council, and Gary and two other fellows, and it came to our attention that they wanted to just do houses on this property. And I brought that up and we voted on it. Gary was the only one that voted against it, and I understand that. And so we ended up killing that project, and we had another meeting where we had all the people in this community come together and vote. They pulled a tag and put it on so we would know whether they wanted to make it commercial, residential, or something else. Anyway, everybody kind of agreed that we should retain this as an industrial site. And I had made the mention that it was probably the last industrial site of this size west of east of the coast. So it was something worth saving, as I saw it. And that's how that turned out. So I'm glad we went through it, and I'm certainly glad we saved it.
Thank you. Yeah, we agree.
It's on.
Yes, I'm Dick Scheimer, and I was the central maintenance manager here at the mill site for about 20 years, both under Stimson and for about 5 or 6 years under Champion. And the warehouse, what we called it the warehouse, the stone building was truly a warehouse at the time, and office buildings used for storage. But the original purpose, one of the original purposes, was that when this mill started up, all the lumber that was moved on wagons that were pulled by horses. And this warehouse building was a stable for the horses, and the upstairs was the hay mow. And this portion of the roof has windows all the way around that open, and that was to allow ventilation, so heat didn't build up there in the hay.
Hadn't heard that.
And that's
good.
And in the upstairs, and some of the beams on the upstairs near the roof, people have written and inscribed notes and notations over the years. Yeah. One of them was for a roommate of mine from college from 1965, but there are dated comments that go back to World War I that are etched in the wood up and painted in the wood up there. Yeah. So it's quite a fascinating old building.
Yeah. It is.
So, anyway, I just thought I'd update.
Very good. In the back, Gary, I guess.
Well, a couple other brief comments. I think the gentleman from Kettle House just left, but there was a comment about the parking of the cars, and Logjam has been very generous in coordinating with the Missoula Kiwanis clubs, who are a volunteer operation here in Missoula, to have them help park cars, and two clubs, Sentinel Kiwanis and Missoula Kiwanis, rely on the funds raised from that as a big part of their fundraising efforts. So hats off to Logjam for helping us with that. The other thing is a lot of stuff over the years has left the Bonner Mill. And so one thing that the Bonner Mill used to do, they used to have the box plant. And some of you guys may remember the box plant. And that dated probably from Hammond days. But if you have an old house in Missoula and it has panel doors in it, those were likely made at the Bonner Mill. And the box plant, most of the woodworking machinery, turn of the century, not the last century, but the century before, is now residing at the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. In addition, thanks to Shorty Helm, and I think the box plant maybe is thanks to Shorty Helm too, how it landed there, and Marvin Troutwine. But the other thing that's out at the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula is a fire truck that has Anaconda painted on the side of it that used to reside out here for many, many years. It's about a 1950s vintage Chevy. And those are all out at the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. When Champions moved to Stimson, they also had an auction, and I acquired a library, huge library table. I don't know what building it was in, but the thing is 4 feet wide and 10 feet long and weighs about 300 pounds, oak table. It is now in the conference room at Mountain Press Publishing. So if anybody ever wants to visit it, I'm happy to give you a tour.
There's a conference table in the White House.
In the back.
No. What took you so long?
Yeah, Pat McDonald and Billy Younger and Mike Nelson and us, we all grew up out here. So I'll be 80 next Tuesday. So I've been here a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that Margaret Hotel that Mary Ann had mentioned, when I was a kid, my mom used to work there, and there was a cook there named Mabel Sari. She made the best lemon pies, and she put about that much meringue on it. And it's still with me. It's still with me, right here. That's how good they were. But us kids would come over from West Riverside and eat those pies over here. They were really good. But anyway, he's talking about that box factory. The wife and I, Elaine, have got some of those old breadboards they made in there. They were stamped Anaconda. We've still got them up the house. So it's pretty good. And we're happy to have you guys here. We're glad you got rid of those noisy airplane fans.
Our pleasure.
Oh, okay.
Just, I'm gonna have to leave. I have my little kids here, but I left some chocolates here at the end. So feel free to grab a little piece. And there's more to come.
Yes, sir.
While you were going through all the businesses, you talked about quite a few of them. When you were going through all the businesses, you talked about quite a few of them expanding, a couple of them doubling in size. Will they be able to stay on the grounds with the increase that they're looking at?
We think so, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but these buildings, these new buildings that we'd like to build, we think we can maybe either accommodate them or accommodate somebody else that's when they would move from someplace on site maybe to the new building, might open up some space next to them. And so that's kind of our hope. And but yes, we'll move mountains to keep them around here. and make sure that we're able to accommodate what they want to do. And you know, they've been amazing. I don't know whether we're probably lucky, but they will kind of tell us. Alcom, you know, they had the one barrel, and then they were kind of telling us, well, you know, we might get a little bigger, and then pretty soon they had the next barrel, but we've kind of kept our ear to the ground, and Mike, I think, talks to everybody probably once a week at least, and we try to keep a good feel for that, because we want them to stay here. We don't want them going anywhere else. So I think we can, yeah. Yes, sir, Pat.
Steve, question. Do you hear any rumblings? Do you hear any rumblings from city, county as to if and when the sewer would ever be extended out into this area?
Pat, to be honest, you know, some of us got involved. Yeah, but
That's funny. I thought I asked Steve this question.
But 4 or 5 years ago or so, we got involved, and we thought, well, maybe there's some traction. Maybe we can get something interest. Boy, there's just a lot of issues with that. It's so far from. I think when it finally came down to it, it was eventually someday you're probably going to have some kind of a localized system or something that maybe that the county or the city's involved in, but I don't see it happening for a while. And the other thing is you'll be surprised to know, but this group that lives out here, they're a pretty independent bunch. and they basically, they don't want to get annexed into the city. They're happy with where they're at. And and the other thing that happens is because of our geography and the way we are, we do a pretty good job of dealing with sewage and that sort of thing, and with the drain fields, and they're pretty careful now. I think we don't have any thing on site that's not a county approved now. When we got here, there were lots of them that were just a hole, and that's where it went. But because of the soils and the way it percolates and stuff, it's amazing how good all that is in this whole community out in this end of town. But personally, I don't see it happening. Maybe, I don't know, somebody down the road, something might happen, but I'd be really surprised. In my short left of my lifetime, I don't think it's going to happen, but what do I know? So.
We have time for a few more questions, a couple minutes. Anybody? Or stories?
Have you ever thought about how, you know, the traffic has gotten a lot more? And have you thought about the traffic or anything, you know, like maybe a temporary light or something sometimes? You know.
We have.
Because that corner over there gets a little dangerous. You know, we live off of old, which would be Highway 10 or 210, and there's like afternoons, evenings, you know, there's just the traffic is awful. Oh, I'm supposed to talk in I only wanted Steve to hear me.
Well,
this was just our conversation, okay?
I can tell you that we have thought about it, and you know, it's. The question was we
traffic.
About traffic control, because there's so much traffic up and down 200, and then even going down towards Piltsville, you know, and some of it's a product of the success we've had.
I know.
In fact, we're going to one of these days, you know, get somebody to sit in the guard shack and just count. You know, we don't, but it shocks me how many vehicles go in and out, you know, delivery vehicles, and then you've got probably 600 cars going in and out of here every day.
Every day.
And sometimes twice a day, you know, and a lot of times, I don't know whether you're ever around at lunchtime, but man, it's a big zoo going out of here to run down to the town pump. And so, but we have thought about it, we've talked about it, but we don't necessarily want to.
We don't want another light.
I don't think so. How about a roundabout right in front? No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding. Don't shoot.
He's joking.
But I just think, you know, the school, Jim probably left, but the school has more kids.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so much going on, and up the valley, there's all kinds of stuff. Down, there's lots going on, and probably one of these days, there's gonna have to be something done. I don't know exactly what, but probably gonna have to be something done.
Well, we live on that highway there on 210. In the last 5 years, the traffic has just gotten so bad. But then does anybody know where the little caboose went that was on old Highway 210? And now you do. And now they're rebuilding the railroad went in there, and now that's all blocked off. And
that's railroad property, and the Bonner Development Group put the car on there. And we wanted to get rid of it, so we sold it to a gentleman down there in Tura, and he's got it down there now. But yeah, that all belonged, so we had to clean that property all up just like it was before, because it does belong to the railroad.
so did you go in and reclimate it and then put the brand new fence up? That just happened in the last 2 months over there?
No, they must have done that. We just brought it up to the standards it was when we took it over.
Yeah, so they fenced that all off, they cleaned it all up, and we were wondering if they were gonna use that for the railroad.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, because we can't even, where the horse arena is underneath, yeah, that's all blocked off.
Well, that property now anyway, on the right-hand side going, that's all part of the park down there. And we donated that property to, yeah, we donated that to the Fish and Game. So they own that now, and they're taking care of it.
Okay, Mary, did you have?
No, I was just going to answer that question.
Okay. So were we?
Okay, I think that is it, and boy, was that good.
The only thing I would say is thank you, thank you, thank you. You folks are incredible. That's what makes this community so special, is all you people, and we respect and appreciate all of you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I thank you too. We crammed a lot of people in here, and I think this is a great venue for these things. Next month, on the third Sunday of next month, we will have a presentation here on the Mullen statues and their place in, I guess, American history, but also Bonner history. And on our third program will be at the Catholic Church in Bonner, and it features Bill Taylor and the building of the railroad and the ethnicities that built the railroads through here, and it should be fascinating. So third Sunday of January, February, and March every year. Thank you all.